Welcome to DIY Easy Crafts and BergKnifeMaking.com. Today we're going to take a look at the setup and do a product review on a gas or a propane forge from Devil Forge. This is their product number DFPROFK2. It's a heavy-duty forge, very sophisticated, and it comes with a very unique feature, a gas-saving feature. So the setup on this forge is pretty easy. This is a 2-burner forge. The construction on this particular model is a little bit heavier duty than some of the other forges that Devil Forge puts out. It comes with everything you need, including fire brick for both the floor and the walls, all of the plumbing, which is stainless steel and copper, the regulator. It comes with instructions, the hose, the 2-burner assembly, and it even comes with rigidizer, and they even include the paintbrush that you'll need. As I said before, assembly is very easy. You just screw the handle onto each one of the doors, and that's secured with a little wing nut. For the manifold assembly, there are brackets and clamps already in place on the body of the forge. It can only go on one way. What I found easiest was to attach the very first, or the top clamp, and that kind of holds everything in place while you secure the bottom two clamps. You can do this whole assembly with basically a screwdriver and an adjustable wrench. The top burner assembly, you just loosen the 3 bolts that are through the burner tubes, and you drop the whole assembly into place until it rests on the cross member. That's important because you want the burners to blow flame into the burner, not behind the insulation. Then you just tighten up those 3 bolts, and that's all set to go. Next, we're going to hook up the copper plumbing lines. These can basically only go on one way. There is a left and a right. They just get screwed on. You can tighten them with a wrench. Once one side is on, you just repeat the process on the other side. Now, to the bottom right of the manifold, you're going to attach the hose that's going to lead to the regulator and eventually to the propane tank. There's a hose nipple, and it just you push it all the way on, and it just gets secured with a hose clamp. You can use a screwdriver, and then I actually like to kind of cinch those up with a little wrench. This was the only part of the forge that I wasn't 100% thrilled with. That hose kind of goes out in front of where the devil's breath is going to come out, the flame. And I'll show you what I did to rectify that a little bit later on in the video. This is the regulator. It comes with all of the fittings. You want to assemble the nipple fitting as shown. This can only go on one way. It is a left-handed thread. And just as with the other side of the hose, you're going to slide the hose clamp onto the hose. You're going to push that hose all of the way onto the nipple. Takes a little bit of effort. And once that hose is all the way onto the nipple, then you can secure it with that hose clamp. And basically the same deal, screwdriver and then cinch it up with a little wrench. Now, I've had several Devil Forges over the years. I'm really kind of eager to see what this gas-saving system is all about. Just going to finish up the assembly. We're going to insert the fire brick, and these can go in from either side or from both sides. You want to install the walls first, and then the floor. All of the bricks come pre-cut. You know, I think, as I said before, a very, very simple, easy assembly. The entire body of the forge is insulated in ceramic or ceramic wool. Those additional fire brick just add additional insulation and durability. They do supply you with some additional insulation, and with a screwdriver, you should pack that in right around the burner tubes. This prevents any flames from escaping from the forge, up towards the burners. These are the valves. This is a 2-burner forge. I usually only use 1 burner. Unless I'm doing a really large knife, I turn off the back burner. So in this position, the front burner is on, right there. The valve is parallel to the fuel line. And whenever that is on, you want to have the corresponding choke open. The back burner, see, when I turn it on, I would correspondingly open the choke. And you want that choke to be open 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. You're going to adjust it to get the nice blue flame that you're looking for. But whenever you turn off a burner, you'll also want to close the choke. So the main manifold, there's 3 valves. In this position, gas is going to come in through the bottom valve and then straight up the least resistance, and you'll have gas going into the forge. What I've done now is I've turned off that middle valve so that it bypasses through this left-handed valve. And the gas-saving device is just a matter of setting that valve so that only a little bit of gas goes into the forge, so that the burners are just kept burning with the least amount of gas going into them as possible. Then, as you're working, all you have to do is throw that one middle valve on or off, and it will either let all of the gas into the forge, full force, or it will bypass it and have just a small amount of gas going into the forge. I'll show you how that works in a little bit. This is the only modification I made to this particular forge. I just wasn't real happy with the way that the orange tube, which carries propane, kind of ran outside or close to the devil's breath, or the flame that can come out of either end of this forge. And very simple solution. For a couple bucks, I ran down to Ace Hardware and picked up a 90-degree angle. And all I'm doing is just routing that hose downward so that it stays away from either end of the forge. Now, I mounted mine onto a propane barbecue stand. So the assembly is basically done. We still have to just coat the insulation with rigidizer. I'll show you that in a moment. But other than that, this forge is ready to go. It has a pull-out bracket on one side, which can be used as a rest. Really, really useful for long-handled tongs. Here's the manifold again. That's now in the on position with gas going fully into the burners. The back burner is off, the front burner is on. The front choke assembly is open, about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. But before we turn it on, we're going to paint the rigidizer. And it comes as a powder. You mix it with water. It paints on like mud. I did a whole video on coating these forges, or coating the ceramic wool with rigidizer to prevent any airborne contaminants. It's a very simple process. You don't have to be very neat. Anything that you get on the body of the forge cleans up very easily with a damp cloth later on. The one thing that I did find when doing this forge was that if I take some of that extra insulation which comes with it, you can break off small pieces, completely saturate it with the rigidizer, and you can use it as a packing. It almost becomes a fiberglass-like material. And the insulation adds a little bit of strength to the clay, or to the rigidizer. And it's real good for filling in those grooves or those openings on the top and sometimes on the bottom of the fire bricks. And you can just work it in right with your fingers. The rigidizer has to dry for a couple of days. So now we're going to turn it on. The adapter screws into the propane tank first, left-handed thread, and then the regulator also screws onto that adapter. And of course you would want to tighten or snug those both up with a wrench. I'm going to pull out the rest, open up the front door. I've got my valves set so that the bypass is off. The fuel or the propane is going straight up into the burners. The back burner is off, the front burner is on. The back choke is closed, the front choke is open. You always want to light these forges with a, either a piece of paper or a barbecue lighter, a long-handled lighter from the side. You see that flame that popped out, that dragon's breath? And just as a illustration, I took this board and I'm probably holding it about 3 or 4 inches away, and within seconds it's a flame. So you do have to be careful with these things. Wear welder's gloves, etc. Long-handled tongs. You want to adjust the flame so that you get a nice blue flame. These forges can reach temperatures over 2600 degrees Fahrenheit. These are great for knife makers, for hardening steel, and even for forging Damascus, etc. Let's take a look at this manifold assembly again. So in this position, the gas was fully on. Now I just turned on the bypass and turned off the upper valve so that all of the fuel is going to go through the bypass. And then I'm adjusting the bypass so that it is just barely open, so that the flame is just barely on. So visually, take a look at the flame. Take a look at the blue flame in the forge. So with the top valve open, the forge is getting maximum amount of propane, and therefore the burner is going to be the strongest. All I have to do is turn that off, and all of the fuel is being diverted through the bypass, which has now been set at a very low rate. This is perfect when you're going to work on Damascus, work on a billet, run over to the anvil. You can just hit that one valve, and all of a sudden you won't be wasting a lot of fuel. So you heat up your material, you close that valve, and you can go bang away at your knife. Come back, and when you want to get it up to temperature, you turn that valve back on, and you're ready to go. Take a look at the blue flame. You can see that it's on full, and now it's being diverted through the bypass. On full, and again through the bypass. Actually a really neat system. I was very impressed with this entire forge. The heavy-duty construction of the body, the rest, the pull-out rest, the doors that allow you to retain heat inside the forge and yet open up the back door if you're working on a long knife. A very high-quality forge. You get a lot for your money. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. If you did, I ask that you please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. By all means, I highly recommend taking a look at Devil Forge's products. This particular one was the DFPROFK2 2-burner heavy-duty forge with gas-saving bypass. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please check us out on the web at DIYEasyCrafts.com or BergKnifemaking.com. Thank you.